The storm system that hammered the central United States has made a critical shift, and now the Gulf Coast is taking the direct hit. What we're tracking right now is an intense concentration of severe weather stretching from eastern Texas all the way through Alabama, and this is creating extremely dangerous conditions. But that's only part of the story. The western United States is locked in a deep freeze, with temperatures well below freezing across multiple states. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest is getting absolutely pounded, with continuous moisture streaming in off the ocean. This is a tale of three completely different weather patterns happening simultaneously across North America. Let's break down what's happening and who needs to be most concerned over the next 24 to 48 hours. Here's the big picture. That massive squall line we were tracking across the Central Plains has now reorganized and shifted its focus to the Gulf Coast. The storm system has pivoted south and east, concentrating all of its energy right along the coastline from Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, and into Alabama. The satellite imagery tells a very clear story. The central United States that was getting hammered yesterday is now mostly clear. The frontal system has pushed through, leaving behind cold, dry air across the Midwest and Great Plains. But the Gulf Coast is a completely different situation. The moisture from the Gulf of Mexico is feeding directly into this system, creating a corridor of intense thunderstorm activity. This is where all the action is focused right now. Let's start with the Pacific Northwest and work our way east. Washington State and British Columbia are dealing with relentless Pacific moisture. Seattle and Vancouver are seeing continuous rainfall as system after system rolls in off the ocean. This is classic Pacific Northwest weather, but the intensity and duration are noteworthy. The atmospheric river that's set up is pumping enormous amounts of moisture onshore. Coastal areas are measuring rainfall in inches, not fractions. As that Pacific moisture encounters the Cascades and the Northern Rockies, it's transitioning to heavy snow. The mountain passes in Washington and British Columbia are getting absolutely buried. We're talking about snowfall measured in feet, not inches, at the higher elevations. Travel through the mountain passes is going to be extremely challenging, if not impossible. Avalanche danger is also increasing with this heavy snow load. If you're planning to travel through the Cascades over the next few days, seriously reconsider those plans. Now let's talk about the interior West, because this is where the cold story is most dramatic. The Great Basin and the Central Rockies are experiencing a deep freeze. Nevada, Utah, and Colorado are all locked under exceptionally cold air for this time of year. Salt Lake City and Denver are both experiencing temperatures well below freezing. We're not just talking about cold nights. Daytime highs are struggling to get above freezing in many locations. This is the kind of cold that can damage crops and burst pipes. The temperature anomaly across the West is significant. Areas that normally see mild conditions are dealing with hard freeze warnings. This cold air mass is sitting in place and showing no signs of moving quickly. One concern in the West is the combination of clear skies and freezing temperatures. Without cloud cover, nighttime temperatures are dropping even further. Rural areas and higher elevations are seeing some of the coldest readings of the season. The agricultural impacts could be substantial. Early spring crops and fruit trees that were already budding could suffer significant damage from these sustained freezing temperatures. Growers across Nevada, Utah, and Colorado are taking protective measures. The central United States presents a stark contrast to what was happening just 24 hours ago. The Midwest and Great Plains are now experiencing quiet weather. The skies have cleared, and the cold, dry air mass that followed the frontal passage has settled in. Chicago, Kansas City, and other cities across the region are seeing sunshine but feeling the chill. Temperatures have dropped significantly behind the front. The cleanup from yesterday's severe weather is now the main focus across these areas. Power crews are working to restore electricity to thousands of customers who lost power during the squall line passage. Tree damage and downed power lines are being addressed, but it's going to take time. Some areas could be without power for several more days. Now let's shift our focus to where the severe weather threat is most acute right now. The Gulf Coast from eastern Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama is experiencing intense thunderstorm activity. This is the most dangerous weather zone in the entire country at this moment. New Orleans and Jackson are positioned right in the heart of this severe weather corridor. The radar data is showing continuous thunderstorm development with very heavy rainfall rates. The lightning activity is intense, with constant electrical discharges. Houston is on the western edge of this activity, but still dealing with significant impacts. Multiple rounds of heavy thunderstorms are moving through southeast Texas. The training effect, where storm cells follow the same path, is creating flash flooding concerns. The atmosphere over the Gulf Coast is extremely unstable. Warm, humid air from the Gulf is colliding with the cooler air mass that swept through the Central Plains. This clash is creating perfect conditions for severe thunderstorm development. The moisture content in the air over Louisiana and Mississippi is exceptional. Dew points are in the upper 60s to low 70s, which is providing enormous fuel for these storms. When you combine that kind of moisture with strong atmospheric lift, you get explosive thunderstorm growth. Flash flooding is the primary concern across the Gulf Coast right now. When thunderstorms keep developing over the same areas for hours, the rainfall totals accumulate quickly. Some locations could see 4 to 6 inches of rain or more by the time this system moves through. New Orleans is particularly vulnerable to flooding, given its geography and drainage challenges. The city's pump systems are going to be tested by this prolonged heavy rainfall. Street flooding is likely, and some areas could see more significant inundation. Mobile, Alabama is also in the danger zone. The storm corridor is moving directly over southern Alabama, bringing the threat of damaging winds, torrential rainfall, and frequent lightning. Outdoor activities need to be cancelled or postponed. The severe weather threat isn't limited to just heavy rain. The wind shear environment is favourable for rotating storms. While we're not forecasting a major tornado outbreak, isolated tornadoes are possible, especially in Louisiana and Mississippi. Damaging straight-line winds are also a significant concern. These thunderstorms can produce wind gusts exceeding 60 miles per hour. That's strong enough to bring down trees and power lines, especially in areas where the ground is saturated from heavy rain. The duration of this event is concerning. This isn't a quick-moving system that passes in an hour or two. The Gulf Coast could be dealing with waves of thunderstorms for the next 12 to 18 hours. That's a long time to maintain severe weather readiness. As we look further east, the southeast is next in line. Georgia and the Carolinas are seeing clouds increase as the system approaches. The severe weather threat is going to shift eastward over the next 24 hours. Atlanta, Charlotte, and Columbia should all prepare for stormy conditions tomorrow. The same ingredients that are creating severe weather over the Gulf Coast are going to move into the southeast. Heavy rain, gusty winds, and embedded thunderstorms are all likely. The timing for the southeast looks like tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. The morning might start relatively quiet, but conditions will deteriorate as the day progresses. The evening commute could be particularly hazardous with heavy rain and strong winds. The northeast is still in a waiting period. New York, Boston, and other major cities are experiencing relatively calm conditions for now. But this system is going to reach the mid-Atlantic and northeast by Friday. The pattern is clear. This storm system is marching eastward, and every region is going to feel its effects eventually. Right now, the Gulf Coast has it worst. Tomorrow, it's the southeast's turn, and Friday brings the threat to the northeast. Let's talk about Canada for a moment, because both coasts are dealing with significant weather. Western Canada, particularly British Columbia, is getting hammered by those same Pacific systems affecting Washington. Vancouver is seeing heavy, continuous rainfall. The coastal mountains of British Columbia are experiencing the same heavy snow that's falling in the Washington Cascades. This is beneficial for the snowpack, but challenging for travel and mountain communities. Central Canada, meanwhile, continues to feed cold air southward into the United States. The Arctic air mass that's creating the deep freeze in the western US is originating from the Canadian prairies. Winnipeg and other prairie cities are experiencing brutal cold. Looking at the next 24 to 48 hours, the Gulf Coast severe weather is going to gradually shift eastward. By tomorrow afternoon, the worst conditions will be focused on Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. The Gulf Coast will see gradual improvement, but could still deal with lingering showers. The western freeze is going to persist. There's no quick warm-up in sight for Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. This cold air mass is locked in place, and temperatures are going to remain well below normal for at least the next several days. The Pacific Northwest rain and mountain snow will continue as well. The atmospheric river feeding moisture into Washington and British Columbia isn't showing signs of shutting down. This could be a multi-day precipitation event with significant accumulations. One aspect of this pattern that's worth noting is the temperature contrast across the country. Denver could be experiencing temperatures 40 degrees colder than what New Orleans is seeing, even though they're at similar latitudes. This kind of extreme gradient is what drives active weather patterns. The jet stream configuration is creating these stark differences. A deep trough in the west is pulling Arctic air far to the south, while a ridge in the east is allowing warm Gulf air to push northward. The collision zone between these air masses is where the severe weather develops. Travel across the southern United States is going to be challenging tonight and tomorrow. If you're planning to drive through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or Georgia, be prepared for heavy rain, reduced visibility, and possible severe weather. Airlines are going to see disruptions at southern hubs. Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta, and Charlotte could all experience flight delays and cancellations as this system moves through. Stay in close contact with your airline if you have travel plans. The power grid across the Gulf Coast is going to take some hits from this severe weather. Lightning strikes, wind damage, and heavy rain can all cause outages. Make sure you have flashlights, batteries, and ways to stay informed if the power goes out. For those in the western states dealing with the freeze, protect your pipes and bring any sensitive plants indoors. This is hard freeze territory, and prolonged exposure to these temperatures can cause significant damage to infrastructure and agriculture. In the Pacific Northwest, if you live in flood-prone areas, monitor stream and river levels closely. This continuous rainfall can lead to flooding, especially in areas that have already received significant precipitation recently. The good news is that severe weather events like this are usually relatively short-lived at any one location. While the overall system might persist for days, the worst conditions at your specific location will likely last just a few hours. However, those few hours can be intense and dangerous. When the severe weather arrives in your area, take it seriously. Get indoors, stay away from windows, and have multiple ways to receive warnings. We'll continue monitoring this evolving situation very closely. The severe weather threat is going to shift eastward, affecting new areas each day. Stay tuned to local forecasts and warnings for your specific location. Make sure your phone is charged and weather alerts are enabled. Have a plan for where you'll go if severe weather threatens. Know the difference between a watch and a warning, and take appropriate action when warnings are issued. This is a significant multi-day weather event, affecting different regions with different threats. Whether you're dealing with severe thunderstorms, freezing temperatures, or heavy rain and snow, stay weather aware and stay safe.